So coming up this weekend, you've got the UFC final fight card of the year, man, but we've also got a lot of final fight cards of the year for a lot of other promotions. I'm trying to set up my video right now. Oh, this is so awkward, but yeah, Kennedy versus Strickland is taking place this weekend, but there's not the only MMA event on. There's going to be quite a few more. There's going to be a lot that I'm going to forget about. I actually did record this video a couple of days ago, and then I actually accidentally deleted it. But I was just too exhausted and too tired from work to bother re-recording it. Sorry, guys. So you're getting a couple of days late, but I am going to be making this video about what's on in the UFC, or not in the UFC, in the MMA scene this week. And I think the biggest card outside the UFC, you could argue, is going to be Mahmed versus Puds. And if you don't know who Puds is, this guy, I believe, is like the former world's strongest man. He's almost 46 years old. He knocks guys unconscious, and I think he's going to do it again this weekend. It's so crazy. Like, he's like 46 years old at heavyweight, and he's just knocking guys out. Like, he went, like, I believe the Twitter post of him getting knocked out went everywhere 5 months ago when he got the KO. And honestly, dude, I think if he knocks out Mamed Khalidov, Twitter's going to go crazy again. That's just what it does for Puds. And then, aside from that, the whole card's actually pretty good. Like, you're getting really high levels of competition in this card. Like, Jacob Wicklex is a guy that I'm aware of, but I believe Prisbus is the champion. And then you've even got another championship bout in the light heavyweight division. Scroll down a bit, Patrick Kazmachich versus Pascual Hinsen is a pretty cool prospect bout as well, because Patrick is only 24 years old. He potentially could go on to be a pretty cool prospect for Ryzen. You've got 8-0 versus 5-0, 5-0 versus 8-1. You scroll down the card more, and it's just a pretty high level card overall, man. I think KSW is going to put on a pretty good card right here, and Puds in the main event. That gets everyone excited, man. That gets me excited. So, yeah, look forward to watching it. Now, K3 UFC 116 Torres versus Matheson. This probably isn't one that I'm going to be watching live. I probably will watch some highlights if they go out on Twitter or something like that. But there was one fight that I was really excited for, but I believe it's been cancelled, unless I'm getting the, yeah, I am. Junior Cortez from Dana White's Contender Series, not last year, but the year before, well, not the season, but the season before, 2021, was meant to fight on this card. The fight's been cancelled. I don't know what the go is there, but I was really looking forward to watching that matchup, because I think if Junior Cortez won that fight, he was probably going to be on Dana White's Contender Series next year. But speaking of Dana White's Contender Series fighters that have been on the show in the past, especially in 2021, Colton England versus Darren Whitney is a fight that I'm going to keep my eye on, because in my opinion, if Colton England wins this fight, you're probably going to see him on Dana White's Contender Series in 2023. He lost by knockout to Manuel Torres, but since then he's bounced back with a couple of wins already. One over a guy with a losing record, so and that was recently. Maybe he was just kind of doing that to get his confidence up or something like that. And then he fought a 6-3 opponent, which is a much better opponent. And now he's taking on Darren Whitney, who's 5-1. Before that, England has fought pretty good opponents himself. And I feel like maybe with a win here, he's going to be 12-4. He's been on the show before, he did lose, but he's shown that he's willing and prepared to come back. And also his fiancée, I believe, Rayane Amanda, was on the show in 2022, so at least there's some eyes on her, which maybe could put some eyes back on Colton England, especially because he's been on the show himself before. The main event's pretty good, Joshua Van versus Cleveland McLean. Van is a pretty cool prospect, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Unified MMA 48 is a Canadian show, and they've actually got two shows on later in the weekend, so I'm going to put that there for later on. But Shane Campbell versus Darren Smith Jr. is your main event. And aside from that, you've just got a bunch of Canadian prospects, man. 6-1 Teshay Guthro, 7-1 Pat Painslick. And aside from that, you got a couple of undefeated guys fighting each other as well, 175 pounds, which is interesting. That is one thing that is odd about the Canadian regional scene, especially Unified MMA. I wouldn't pin out the Canadian regional scene as a whole, but Unified MMA's got a 165 pound weight class, so that's quite cool. But yeah, just a bunch of Canadian prospects on the show. Another one here is MMA Open 1. Personally, I am excited about for this one. It is on UFC Fight Pass. It's in Israel. Israel is not really a well-known place for MMA, and it's quite cool to see a promotion pop up in that sort of area. You've got a 5-0 prospect here, Ontario Abasov. 5-1 prospect versus 5-0 prospect as well in this fight here. And aside from that, you just got a lot of fighters from Israel. Iron Karlon as well is even going to be fighting on the card, which is really interesting. I completely forgot this guy existed. This fight wasn't on here 2 days ago when I recorded the video. It just popped up, so maybe Tapology just found out about it. But Oren Karlon, if you don't know that guy, he's the guy that talked a lot of smack about Javid Basharat Said a lot of things that I won't repeat about him, and then last got destroyed by Basharat. Absolutely smoked him. It got smoked, and then he fought this guy and lost, and then he's bounced back with another win. But his record is padded, like it's unbelievable. You look at this guy's record, man. It's like 12 wins over debuting guys in a row. Like he got 12-0 by fighting guys that had never fought before, pretty much. Like what are you doing, dude? Like what are you up to, man? Yeah, I feel like anyone could go 12-0 if they fought guys that were just showing up to lose, but it's another story. Weird fight, man, weird fight. But I think he probably could win this fight. I don't really know anything about his opponent, but yeah, odd matchup. Anyway, we move on. Venator FC 13, developing region for MMA is Italy. UFC's mentioned potentially putting on a show in Italy, which could be very interesting. And I feel like a couple of prospects of Venator FC could be signed to the UFC for that show. They've mentioned putting on a show, but the problem is they'll have to have Marvin Vettori headliner, and I don't know how big of a star Vettori is in Italy. And another thing is they would have to have a location, and they're apparently struggling to find a location. But there's a couple of prospects here. Giacomo Santoro, 125 pounds, he's 6-2, he's from Italy, he's on a 2-fight losing streak though. I guess at one point maybe he would have been like the guy to keep your eye on out of Italy at 125, but that's alright. Aside from that, yeah, you've just got a bunch of Italian prospects on here. This is also on UFC Fight Pass. Another event on UFC Fight Pass is FCC 32. It is going to be taking place in England, so another English promotion. One fight I'm really looking forward to. It is not so. Oh, Netflix. I don't want to watch Netflix. not super looking forward. This video is such a mess. Hyder Khan versus Mick Stanton is going to be interesting because this Hyder Khan guy is 4-0, but he's not fought really like any high level competition like in his career. Everyone he's beaten has got a losing record or debuting in a professional career, and even then like his amateur record is a little bit dicey as well. Like every time he won was against a guy with a losing record, and now he's taking on Mick Stanton, who just beat Darren Stewart of all people, who used to be in the UFC. So really interested to see how that one plays out. I actually think Mick Stanton's a live underdog because this guy's actually fought and beaten really good guys, and this Hyder Khan guy, his whole career he's just spent fighting guys with losing records, and this is a big step up in competition, even if Stanton doesn't have a pretty record. But it is what it is. Aside from that, yeah, just a lot of cool prospects from England as well, and there's another English card going on. There's going to be a lot of English prospects as well, a lot of amateur fighters on there. But Lewis McGrillen Evans is going to be fighting this weekend, and he's a guy to keep your eye on. He's going to be fighting on Vita Fight Championship 5. He was meant to fight a different opponent. I believe the opponent he was meant to be fighting was like 11-5 was his record, and he's pulled out. So they found this guy, Romero dos Reis, on very short notice to fight Lewis McGrillen Evans. And Lewis McGrillen Evans, if you don't know who this guy is, he's a guy that gets KOs, man. Like he's a flyweight. The UFC needs flyweights. They're looking to expand into the English market. They could really build up McGrillen Evans as a KO machine. But the problem with this man is everyone that he's beaten has had a losing record or an evens record. So a step up in competition is Ramiro Reyes. Why is there only 4 fights showing on his Tapology record? This is getting a little bit sketchy now, isn't it? Not really. This is what it is. The guy that he fights seems to be like a first round or nothing fighter as well, but he's also got a pretty padded record, even though it's not that pretty. So I think that Lewis should win this one here by KO. I'm thinking if he wins this one and then fights a guy with like a 6-1 record or a 7-1 record or something, UFC might really start paying attention and put him on Dana White's Contender Series next year. But for now, he's only 22 years old. He can keep building up his record, building up his hype, and getting these KOs in the regional scene, man. And I think you should be able to KO this guy with 7-6. Now the final card that I'm going to be talking about is Unified MMA 49. I said that there's going to be 2 events taking place in this Canadian promotion. Ty Flores versus Graham Park should be a pretty interesting fight at 205 pounds. Ty Flores, you may not recognise him, but you may recognise a former opponent in George Tokos, who was on Road to UFC. Got knocked out by Zhang Ming Yang, who's going to be taking a fight against Tyson Pedro in Australia, which should be fun. Like, it's going to be a great fight. And I believe he's got Dana White's Contender Series lost to Dustin Jacoby as well, which is interesting. But aside from that, a lot more Canadian regional talent on the card as well. I feel like the other one is for pro belts. It is a little bit more stacked, but there is a very good main event on this card as well. And this takes place after the UFC event. So let me know what you think about that video. It wasn't even 10 minutes long, but I'll leave you to it. Thank you very much for watching the video. It was super rushed because, as I said, I'm tired. I've already recorded it before, and what a mess. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video anyway. I'll see you in the next one.